Imagine waking up one morning knowing that some of the world's most dangerous criminals are still out there, hiding in plain sight. People who have committed horrific crimes and have slipped through the fingers of justice. What if I told you they could still be walking among us? Let's dive into the terrifying truth as we count down the top 10 most dangerous criminals. Still on the loose, number 10. The Zodiac Killer. The Zodiac Killer is one of the most infamous unsolved cases in criminal history. Operating in Northern California during the late 1960s and early 1970s, this killer taunted police with cryptic letters and ciphers, some of which remain unsolved to this day. He claimed to have murdered 37 people, but only 5 were confirmed. Despite decades of investigation, the Zodiac's identity remains unknown. Can you imagine living in a city where the person who killed so many is still at large, potentially hiding in plain sight? Number 9. The Monster of Florence. In Italy, there was a serial killer who terrorized the countryside between the 1960s and 1980s, earning the nickname the Monster of Florence. The killer's method was disturbingly methodical, murdering couples in their cars, often while they were having intimate moments, leaving behind brutal and bizarre crime scenes. Despite several suspects and even convictions, the true identity of the monster is still elusive. Could this predator still be out there, walking free? Number 8. Raul Meza. Raul Meza was serving a sentence for murder when he mysteriously escaped from a Texas prison in 2008. Known for his violent tendencies and criminal history, Meza was considered extremely dangerous. After vanishing without a trace, he has evaded authorities ever since. How did he manage to escape and stay off the radar for all these years? Could he be committing other crimes, or has he been hiding in plain sight? Number 7. Ayman al-Zawahiri. Ayman al-Zawahiri, the leader of al-Qaeda after Osama bin Laden's death, remains one of the most wanted men in the world. Responsible for orchestrating numerous deadly attacks and global terror plots, al-Zawahiri has managed to evade capture for years. Despite intense global efforts to capture him, he remains at large, still a powerful threat to international security. What devastating acts could he be planning right now? Number 6. James Whitey Bulger. James Whitey Bulger was the notorious leader of the Winter Hill Gang in Boston, involved in multiple murders and organized crime. He evaded capture for 16 years, living under a false identity before he was finally apprehended in 2011. Despite his arrest, many people wonder if there are still other dangerous criminals out there operating under the radar. Whitey's criminal empire left a legacy of terror, and who knows how many people were involved in his network. Number 5. Pedro Alonso Lopez, the Monster of the Andes. Pedro Alonso Lopez, known as the Monster of the Andes, was convicted of murdering hundreds of young girls across Colombia, Ecuador, and Peru. He was arrested in 1980, but in 1998, he was surprisingly released due to legal technicalities. Lopez is considered one of the deadliest serial killers in history, but despite his release, he has remained on the run for over 2 decades. Is he still alive today? And is he continuing to prey on vulnerable victims? Are you fascinated by these chilling criminals? Do you want to learn more about dangerous figures from around the world? Please subscribe, because hitting your subscribe button can give me new motivation to work harder and succeed. If you're enjoying this countdown, don't miss out on what's coming next. Stay tuned to uncover the rest of these terrifying stories. Number 4. D.B. Cooper. In 1971, a man who went by the name D.B. Cooper hijacked a plane, extorted $200,000 in ransom, and then parachuted out of the plane, disappearing into thin air. Despite an extensive investigation, D.B. Cooper's identity has never been discovered, and the money was never recovered. Some believe he didn't survive the jump, while others argue that he might have escaped to live a quiet life somewhere. The mystery surrounding his fate remains one of the most perplexing in criminal history. Number 3. The Chicago Tylenol Murders, Unsolved Killer. In 1982, the lives of 7 people were tragically taken when they ingested cyanide-laced Tylenol capsules. The killer's motives remain unclear, and despite intense investigation and several suspects, the individual responsible for this deadly act has never been caught. Could this murderer still be out there looking for their next opportunity to strike? Number 2. Jean Leroy Hart, the Oklahoma Girl Scout murders. In 1977, 3 young girls were brutally murdered at a Girl Scout camp in Oklahoma. Jean Leroy Hart was convicted of the murders, but his conviction was later overturned due to lack of definitive evidence. The true identity of the killer has remained a mystery, and despite DNA tests, the case remains unsolved. Could the true murderer still be out there, hiding in plain sight? Number 1. The Butcher of Plainfield, Ed Gein. Ed Gein, known as the Butcher of Plainfield, committed horrific crimes in the 1950s, including grave robbing and the murders of 2 women. His actions were so disturbing that they inspired fictional characters like Norman Bates from Psycho and Leatherface from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Gein was arrested and later committed to a mental institution, but his crimes still haunt our society to this day. Could Gein's twisted legacy still have repercussions even after all these years? That concludes our countdown of the top 10 most dangerous criminals still on the loose. Which one shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon so you never miss another thrilling video. Also, if you want us to cover any other top 10 lists of the world, drop your suggestions in the comments. Stay tuned for more mind-blowing stories.